Hi, we're back. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our audience of at least what? My mum keeps on watching, Sanjay.
That's good. One plus my kids, so we've got 4. We're winning.
I don't know what your kids' views are of my limericks, but my mum said, don't do it again. So we have no limerick today. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to me, my CTO and I. I'm joined, of course, by my great friend co-host, Sanjay Mistry. Sanjay, the pace of change, my goodness me. I got a little newsletter through over the weekend about quantum computing. And I just looked at it and just in that one little area, Fujitsu, they've just announced plans to develop a superconducting quantum computer by 2030. There's a quantum hardware startup called Rigetti, which has just announced a breakthrough, share price through the roof.
Oh.
And in the US, some far-sighted regulators are waking up very early about pushing for federal agencies to prepare for the day that quantum computers kind of crack current encryption. Now, scaling up quantum tech won't be a walk in the park, so who knows? But from your perspective as a tech leader, how do you cope with, work out, listen, absorb all the things that are going on, and what you should be implementing into your day job, really?
The very interesting when I think about change like this, we've just been through it so many times as tech leaders, right? So the latest iteration is obviously AI. What we've been going through over the last couple of years, and I just think quantum computing will be the next, right? The big thing. Hopefully, we hope, because it's been talked about for maybe 10, 15 years, right? And now we finally got sight of it. But I think it's as tech leaders, we just need to keep practicing our change muscle, right? And understanding how we're going to manage that. And I think we'll be fine. Personally, I think the biggest challenge, and we're experiencing it with AI, is managing cost and experimentation within our business, right? All of these new technologies drive cost and time into our organizations. And as tech leaders, how we manage that versus our day job, that's the balance that we need to be conscious of, really.
Yeah, got it. As you say, particularly if you're in a senior technology role, you've kind of been through these ebbs and flows before. I think one of the things that comes across, and we had it even recently with the chat GPT and all of that stuff coming out, the LLMs, is managing the hype, particularly internally. What is the truth and the reality of this on the ground? And of course, there's so little of it, do we know? So I think managing the hype, managing the expectations around you, particularly with the non-techies, dare I say, is probably one of the key skills to deal with. Thank you for that. Thank you again. Before we start this is season 3, episode 2. Goodness me, we're marching on, Sanjay. Thank you again to our sponsor, Mixpanel. Just to give you a little bit of a flavor, Mixpanel helps you do more than just measure clicks and signups. It unlocks the story behind the data. They've got advanced cohort analysis, powerful segmentation, and they let you see which user groups find the most value, what drives engagement, and exactly where users drop off or stick around, which means that you can refine your product based on real behaviors and not guesses. So whether you're launching a new feature or optimizing your user journey, Mixpanel gives your team real-time insights to drive growth, experiment efficiently, and build a product that people truly love. And again, Sanjay Mistry, as I said in episode 1, you are a user and an advocate. How do you guys work with user groups?
So our marketing team are in Mixpanel all the time, and hour by hour, they're monitoring stats and changing our campaigns, our Google campaigns. So for us, it's really invaluable. The amount it helps us drive revenue, future revenue, is so important to our business. So yeah, it's super powerful. Yeah, big fan.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Mixpanel, our sponsors. Get in touch with the team there for more information. So what's ahead of us, Sanjay? We've got, of course, the tech quiz. We've got a wonderful tech quiz. 2 great pals, Alex and Ray, who do battle over that. We don't have a limerick, but we do have an interesting variation on something else, a little side hustle that I'm working on. So I'm going to bring that in later on. But the fireside chat, Sanjay, just give us a little bit of insight who it is and what you're talking about.
So I'm talking to an amazing lady called Asavari Moon. So she's ex-Uber, ex-Meta, currently working at Google. We're going to be talking about AI and diversity, and I think it's a fascinating chat, and a little bit sad, but super fascinating. So I think you'll love it.
Yeah, I know, having had a quick look at it, some blunt stats. It also reminds me there was a brilliant book written about 5 or 6 years ago by Caroline Criado Perez called Invisible Women, which essentially talked about a world built for men. And I can't believe it's like it must feel like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Those women who are facing now the challenge of the diversity gap with AI models. So that's the fireside chat. But without further ado, it's the world's favorite technology quiz.
You really, really need to get out more.
Indeed. Welcome to another edition of You Really, Really Need to Get Out More, the nation, in fact, the world's most talked about technology quiz. I don't know how many others there are out there, Sanjay, but we talk about it a lot.
We talk about it quite a bit, yeah.
We do talk about it a lot. And in episode 1, we had a Southern Hemisphere clash where Australia beat New Zealand, which is a rarity these days in sporting events. Today, we have a repeat of the 2010 World Cup final. We have Spain against the Netherlands. And a very warm welcome to Alex Gayan and Ray Bogman. Welcome, both of you.
Hey, Bo.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you. Alex, I'm going to start with you, as you obviously were victorious 15 years ago. Give us a little intro and what's an exciting opportunity ahead for you at the moment in the work you're doing?
All right, thank you, Andrew. So I'm Alex Ayan, born and raised in Barcelona. So I'm, representing Spain in this quiz. So actually, my very next exciting journey starts in the next Monday when I'm taking into a new role into a company that is related with I've been doing all this time, related to the e-commerce, but I'm stepping into a role, leading the platform team where we're building a platform as a product, right? So that evolution of being kind of a self-service and serving that platform to the rest of the company. Very excited. A lot of things, new faces, new company, new dynamics. So I cannot wait to be in the Monday morning just diving into it.
Nice, Alex. Alex, do you in your own head have your plan for the first 3 days? Everyone talks about 30 and 90-day plan, but I think the first 3 days is the most nerve-wracking. Do you have your own plan in your own head of what you want to achieve?
Actually, yes. The answer is yes. So the very first day is gonna be, just welcome to the office and then getting the laptop and then, meeting, 25 different people, and then you're just gonna forget the names, just a minute after you started. So it's gonna be kind of looking for the basics in the office, logistics, lunch, timeframes and whatnot. The other 2 days, the plan is that I'm gonna meet the rest of the company, and since it's a small company, we're gonna have the chance to, meet to the sales people, to the product people, to the different business units within the company. That rather than as being part of Adobe, alongside with Ray, where we have a ton of different teams, sitting all over the place. It's very difficult to have a comprehensive understanding on every single business unit. So it's going to be essentially meeting people, knowing a bunch of people at different roles and where are we going. So the very basics, the ABC, right, in regards what is going to be my new life.
Beautiful. Love it. So
Awesome, Alex. Well, by the time this goes out, you will be well and truly embedded in that company. So we'll follow up in due course, no doubt. And getting across to Amsterdam now as well to tell our listener and our viewer, Alex and Ray are great friends, having worked together at Adobe. So it's got a little bit of an extra dynamic involved in this sort of quiz competition. But Ray, tell us a bit more about what you're up to.
Yeah, well, I'm not born and raised in Amsterdam. Actually, I'm just outside of Amsterdam, just between Schiphol, more or less. But as Amsterdam is not as big as Barcelona, although we have a beautiful city center. I'm based in Amstelveen. And actually, I'm currently head of innovation at Allumio.com. And we have an iPaaS platform to connect multiple systems together. So let's say Adobe Commerce that Alex and I were doing, connecting to an ERP system. So I guess, for those out there connecting systems together, it's not only just an A/B connector, it has multiple purpose components, but we serve over 1,000 connections within the iPaaS world. So from that perspective on, I'm currently investigating how to use AI to the most common component within that. And actually, funny thing is, this morning, and actually I was showing Alex a quick demo since we catched up, on a regular basis on how you use an MCP server leveraging the data from, let's say, a Magento instance. So how could an iPaaS benefit from that? You know, it would be great to just log it into the iPaaS from a data feed, and from their perspective on retrieve the data that you need just by using a prompt. You know, how convenient would that be?
That I think that iPaaS space, I know it feels like yesterday's news, but I think from an infrastructure space is so important. So it sounds amazing that you've got 1,000 connections. Oh yeah, what a beautiful space to be in.
Awesome. Well, on that happy note, have you both got a nominated for Alex? I know you, based in Barcelona, there's a luxury of restaurants that you could choose from, but which one would you be spending your winnings at?
I was thinking because as you said, there's too many options, and picking just one is kind of a hard. But since my wife and I, we love the Japanese food, so there is one particular restaurant that it's called Nomo, and Nomo Nomo. It's a very very simple name, which is down in a very beautiful area, and the food is just amazing. So that's the restaurant I nominate for this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ray, obviously he's never going to go there because you're going to win this quiz. Where will you be dining out?
Well, actually, I found a really nice special spot just close to me. It's called Veri Sapori. It's an Italian restaurant owned by actually Italians. I mean, true. And now we probably have a lot of restaurants in Amsterdam, the surroundings, but actually this one is a really nice, comfortable hot spot with really good Italian cuisine.
Love it. Love it. Well, I love the promotion of these local restaurants, regardless of who goes and who doesn't. So great stuff, guys. We've got 3 questions. I think you're both familiar with the low-tech structure or nature of this quiz. But for those who are tuning in for the first time, there are 3 questions. The first one to get 2 correct takes $50 with them to the restaurant of choice, courtesy of CTO Academy. It's very low-tech. Just call out your name if you think you know the answer. If you get it wrong, it gets thrown across. Sanjay is a very, very tough arbitrator, umpire of any close calls, so I will always rely on him for telling me who's in first. So, Alex, as you walked off with the World Cup in 2010, I'm going to allow Ray the first option. Ray, you've got logo, acronym, or who am I? Which one would you like to go for first?
Logo.
Logo. Okay, here we go. Good luck, guys. What software development hosting company has for their logo an octocat?
Octocat. GitHub?
Correct. Ray, I'll give it to you. Yeah, nice one. It is indeed GitHub has an octocat. Alex, come on. We need this one to take us through to the tiebreaker.
Let's go. Let's go.
An acronym, or who am I?
Who am I?
Who am I? Okay, here we go. I was born in Taiwan in 1963. I moved to the US when I was 9, and I'm a Stanford graduate. I co-founded with 2 others a company in 1993, of which I am still the president and CEO. That company is allegedly now the world's most valuable publicly traded company.
Publicly traded company.
Who am I? Do you know the company?
Alibaba.
No, NVIDIA is the company. Oh, I'm going to time this out before they start searching on.
Nope.
No.
I need to pass to the Netherlands. Let's see how that goes there.
I'm going to be really honest.
I'm going to time him out. Jensen Huang is the name of the CEO at NVIDIA. I hope, gentlemen, I pronounce his surname correctly. I believe it's Jensen Huang. But yes, he is the 11th richest man in the world. So there you are. You can be rich and still not that well known. That's what I would say.
I would say thanks to AI.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Right. So we have this final one, which obviously if Alex gets, we're going to have to split the winnings. So it could be $25 each. Right. Acronym, guys. Final one. And please call out your name first if you think you know it, because I suspect you will. What is HTTP?
Array. Hypertext Protocol.
Not quite. Alex.
Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Pressure, Ray. Is the pressure.
I think bearing in mind your relationship,
It's pressure.
bearing in mind your relationship, sharing the winnings is a good.
Actually, I'm more than happy to share. Ray, you need to come over, and then I will take you to the restaurant here, so we can make that happen.
Beautiful.
$50 goes to Alex. Ray's guaranteed a seat at the table. Thank you, guys. Great to see you both.
I'll see you both. Take care.
Likewise, thank you guys.
You guys.
Okay, stay on the call. Stay on the call.
So Sanjay, great quiz, Ray and Alex, ex-Adobe colleagues. I tell you what I came out of that quiz thinking about was friendships. Friendships,
Yeah.
work. Those guys are such great pals. They've gone on to different careers and different companies, but they are still brilliant pals. And I love that.
And you can see that in the camaraderie in the quiz, right?
Really cool. Really cool. And we're actually we are planning to maintain a kind of theme with our quiz contest. We had the Antipodean quiz in episode 1. We've got the ex-Adobe guys, and we got an all Brighton contest for episode 3, Sanjay. So something to look forward to. But now for everybody, the anchor of our podcast, the fireside chat with Sanjay.
Hey, Asavari Moon. I'm so glad you're joining me on this podcast today. Really excited about our conversation that we're about to have.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be talking about the unspoken diversity gap in the creation of AI models and AI-based products, which I think is such a good topic to be talking about, especially now with the explosion of new models coming out, which feels like daily, right? So I'm going to kind of jump straight in and go, with this subject, you must have some stats. So are you willing to share some stats and some data points with it?
Absolutely. And what a great way to start. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about. So I'm really excited to be here and sharing that. But let's begin with the number of women in AI space. Now, I'm going to start with some really shocking stats. If we look at the number of women engineers in AI, that's 2%. If we look at some of the senior leadership in AI companies, women contribute to 14%. And even if we look at like overall roles in AI, women probably contribute to around 20 to 30%. But here's the fact. According to the research, in terms of like transformation and automation through AI, 80% of the jobs that women hold are at the risk of disruption and automation by AI. So it kind of sets the stage in terms of understanding who is building the future of AI and who is being left behind. And, I often think about the reason for this. And it's not just like a pipeline issue, it's a systematic issue that we have in terms of how we retain talent in tech. But at the same time, are we missing on people who are not in the room? And I think that's the big question. So yeah, starting with some really shocking stats there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy considering, we already know when we build products, we've been building digital products for the last 20 years, and we know that having a mix of diversity in the team reflects on what we build. So it makes those stats even more shocking. So really, to kind of follow up, the data is shocking. Therefore, there's being bias built into the system, potentially bias being built into the models. So really, for me, if I'm a business owner, that's going to impact my bottom line and also impact the validity of these models. So what are your thoughts on this, right?
You said it right. Like, we're using all these AI models that are training the upcoming models that are coming every single day. And it's not just an historic issue. What we're doing with this is that we are expanding it, we're amplifying it by helping, the basic of data to train the remaining. And you're right. It's not just who's building it, but also the training and the data set that it's being built on is so different. And it kind of emphasizes the bias that we already have. One of the example would be just the voice chatbots that we see. most of them are female and most of them are not well trained. That's because people who are building it are not women per se. But it's also that gender stereotyping that comes into play where women are considered to be more helpful or submissive. But exactly to your point, I think not just a social risk, there's also a business risk associated with it. And that is related to all the products that we build, but specifically more for AI. From my personal experience, I've been advising a healthcare startup, and one of the chatbot that they created for their customers is not really working well for women because their data set is not complete with the information related to women's health risk or women's issues. And that's why they're facing a lot of issues in terms of feedback from women or, the relatability. So if you're not building your products for the 50% of the audience, you're losing your customers. And that is loss of revenue, loss of business, isn't it? So I think it's also kind of thinking back and going back to the board, like, who is my audience? And if women are a part of it, then how do you ensure that the bias doesn't come or you're building products for them? And it's not just building for them. I think you should be building with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference. Like, I've transitioned from marketing to sort of like this AI related role after working with some of the tech giants like Uber, Meta, and Google of the world. But even now, or even in the past, I've often seen myself to be the only women in some of these rooms, and only women talking about inclusion. So it's also kind of puts that stark difference in terms of people are not even actively thinking about it. And when they do think about it, it's almost like an afterthought. Like, we prepared this. Now, should we think about diversity? But it should be the other way around. Like, you started that thought, see who's missing at the table, see whose voice is missing, and then build from there.
And I guess that comes, so the point that you made that really resonates with me is know your customer, right? That's a basic business principle before you go into any kind of design process, right? And what are you seeing? So you gave an example, there. Are people just skipping that step, or are they making assumptions? Like, is it just bad practice that they've got into?
I think a bit of both. Generally, you kind of go from what you know about the business or the insights that you have, and then you build from there, which are not inclusive to start with. And that's why your beginning is not right. And then the second one is it's also who's making the decisions in the room, isn't it? Like, if they're not going to be thinking about the other side of the world or the other 50% of the world, for them, it works. And I think that's the systematic issue that I find. Like, if you have diverse voices at the table, they will be able to review where you're building or where you're starting from. And I think that's the missing piece.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I know we start this conversation about, women in AI, but I think the bigger piece here really is diversity, right? Like, looking at your audience and looking at the shape of your audience. Now, that could be men versus women, or it could be ethnicity, or it actually could just be regional. I was having a conversation with someone recently in the education space, and they it's an Australian business, but their software was being delivered in Europe, in parts of Southeast Asia, and actually those regions have such different cultures. But what they've done very right is they had people on the ground feeding into the product to build very specific SKUs of their software for those regions. So for me, that was a real good example of looking at the audience and looking at the diversity of the audience and how they wanted to use their software. So I think there's a bigger piece for kind of businesses to think beyond just using the latest AI model and kind of going, right, what do we do?
Agree. And I think you also raised a really great point. It's not just about women of people of color, but it also ethnicity and race and languages. I feel like there's so much happening in EN UK or EN US languages, but what about all these vernacular languages that you have in different parts of the world, and how do you bring them up to speed? One of the example of lacking that diversity in the time that has reflected in a lot of potential laws is copywriting. Like a lot of businesses now relying on Gen AI or relying on AI tools to do that localization part. And often than not, if you don't have a native speaker, where you get the output is way generic, is way bland, and sometimes it can miss that tongue-in-cheek humor, or it can misrepresent some of the information. But if you don't have the right people to check it,
Yes.
how do you even proceed?
And I'm going to circle back to the kind of dollar question in a second, but that's brand reputation for a business, right? Yeah, that's going to translate to money. So, I guess my question, I want to zoom in on the money element. Do you believe businesses are currently feeling the pinch from losing out on revenue when they're, using AI or building AI products? Or do you think the kind of hockey stick is so great that they're not feeling it yet, but it'll be too late by the time they realize? Where do you think they are in that that cycle?
100%. I mean, it's hard to put a value to what you're missing out on. But we've seen in the past, like, when you do have diverse voices, your business tend to do 25% much better. Like, of course, it's also a long-term approach that you need to keep in mind, where your revenue also increases. But just thinking out loud, like, if I'm not talking to 50% of my customers, I mean, it's as simple as a common sense telling me that you're losing out on 50% of your customers and 50% of your revenue. And then having said that, exactly to your point, it's also about, trust and, your brand reputation is something that you're building is not accurate or is not vetted or is biased. Of course, it's going to put off a certain section of the society who might not ever come back to your product or have a really bad rep around it. And then again, usability of it is also such a big question around it. I don't know, like, I feel like it's also a two-way thing that we need to do. Well, we really need to encourage women also to use AI and vet it and tell when it's biased. But they are also not being encouraged to do that. And I mentor both men and women, who are trying to learn a little bit more about AI. And one of the things that I find, which is very fascinating for me, is that women feel cheated when they use an AI tool, or they feel like they're cheating when they're using AI tool, because it's thinking that I am outsourcing or I'm using something for my talent. Which kind of goes back to the stat that, women only apply to the roles when they know that they're 100% ready for it.
Yeah.
Same thing when it comes to AI. It's like, if I use an AI, I'm using a shortcut, so I'm not working hard enough.
I'm so glad you brought up that fact, because I've forgotten, and I always found it really disgusting that women only applied when they felt they were 100% compatible versus men, being down at 40, 50% and they would apply for a role. And you think that that kind of psychology is moving into even the use of ChatGPT or similar products out there? You think it's still that kind of
Yeah, the gap in the adoption is also that. Like, if I use it, I'm not doing the justice to the work, or I'm using like a shortcut to do this work. They feel guilty about it sometimes. So that's one psychological trait that I've seen. The second one is fear. And it could be because of two things. It's like, I don't know much about it, so I'm a little bit hesitant to use it. And second, I know it's there. I know it's going to help me, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
That's again another barrier for the adoption, when it generally comes from women or women of color or people with minority backgrounds, is where I've seen the lack of adoption and the reason for it. But yeah, hey, some of these stats and some of this psychological thinking really fascinates me. It's got a lot to do with conditioning. Like women are bought to be good girls, and they're taught to be hardworking and people pleasing at times.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of all relates into one. And another fascinating fact is that the prompting is so different between men versus women. Like, of course, we use a lot of thank you and we use a lot of please. And Sam Altman says it costs him a lot of money.
So when I use it, I always put please and thank you and then
But yeah, the way prompting is also very different. And it's very interesting because women are built to think in a different way. And then, of course, they're also a little bit more empathetic. So the way they prompt by giving more description is very interesting versus how men prompt. And then if more women prompt, AI is going to learn from it. And once the output is vetted by women and corrected by women, the algorithm's going to learn. So that's why I encourage a lot of women to, even start using small little things in their life. You don't have to be an AI pro to start this adoption. Like just use the Gmail recommendations that you get or use Grammarly and start from there and see how it really helps and how easy it is. And that's when, you start adopting a little bit more, like image generation. Even if now you Google or you ask an AI tool to generate an image of a CEO, most often than not, you are going to find a white man in his 40s or 50s with blue eyes in a suit. But the role of CEO is so different. And, it could be a working mom with 2 kids who's running her own business. And that's also a CEO. So who's correcting if no one's checking? And if the people who are checking are exactly similar to the output that we're receiving, then how do we make it real or how do we make it representative of the world that we're living in?
yeah. I'm going to take you down a slightly different alley. Do you think there's a generational thing here? So I've just started working with Gen Zers for the first time. Very impressive, very focused, and actually it's a woman CEO. She's very young, very focused on what she's trying to solve, the problem, and really impressed. But her use of technology and AI to kind of support what she's doing is off the chart. I think it's just really phenomenal. So it's really nice to see. Do you believe Gen Zers of this world are going to be native to using AI tools, AI products? And do you think there's a learning gap there? Or do you think it's still going to be a bias between men and women and minorities?
That's a very interesting topic. And I've recently read this interesting fact about how millennials, so I'm a millennial, I'm giving away my age, and we kind of grew in that age where we didn't have mobile phones in the past. And then, we also had this TV, but we didn't have any streaming. We didn't have any Netflix of the world or YouTubes of the world, but we saw that coming and we transitioned fast. So it's also easier for us to adapt to AI because we've seen what internet has done. So we know what AI might do. And that's why we're able to kind of like adapt it as a new technology, as easy as learning mobile phones. Uh, so I feel like that probably wouldn't be a barrier for millennials per se, but 100% for boomers maybe, who are kind of like a little bit more laggard when it comes to AI. Because if I talk about like even my mom using a mobile phone, it was a challenge for her. Now she's great at it and keeps sending me all these amazing WhatsApp university messages. But I feel like millennials have seen that shift and have seen how helpful it can be to your life. So they're more open to that changes. Gen Z now, very interestingly, are digital natives in a way, isn't it? Like you grow up and you have all these phones right next to you, and if you look like the receiver phone, you'll be like, what the world is this? And then now you have Gen Alpha and Gen Beta, and like again, for them AI is just going to be a norm. But I think where I really enjoy how Gen Z kind of are adapting to this new or navigating this new phase where your work is different. You also had COVID that changed everything for them, and they came into this new era of hybrid working versus, as millennials, we started with 9 to 5, 5 day to work. And it's also the association that we had to the work where, a job title meant everything, versus for Gen Z, it's more about, finding purpose and finding passion and all of that. So I feel like um, their view towards work culture is way different, and their view towards productivity is also way different. So in that sense of that work-life balance that they want to maintain, they are using all these tools to make their work faster, and they don't feel they're taking a shortcut. For them, it's just a normal day of life.
And this is the point, right? This is kind of full circle on where you started, where in the sense of, I completely get it. There is it's a cohort, a generation of people, not just women, but not just people of diversity. I know male, white males that struggle because, again, they don't want to be seen as taking a shortcut. But their representation in models is so important, across everything that I guess we've been talking about. So this kind of leads me to my next question, which is, how do we change this? How do we stop and change what's going into the models, going into AI? And there's lots of stories about models training by being trained by other models and so on, and other businesses using other models. Like, it's a bit of a crazy world, right? But how do we change that? What do we, as people that are building these products and solutions, so whether we're in technology or we're business leaders or we're just consumers, what are the things that we should be doing to make change today? Very good question.
Yeah. um, I feel like it's not too late to go back to the drawing board and see what's missing and start from there. The first one would be build for everyone and get everyone's voices in. So deliberate inclusion is the word I'll use. See who's missing, see whose voice is not being heard, and try and get that voice heard, or ask questions, or make it open space so people can talk about it. So that would be the first thing. Like, as you said, our customers and their needs should be the center of all the work that we do. And if we think we're missing out on there, just refine that again and see what we are missing. So like a deliberate inclusion would be 100%, not just an afterthought, not just an nice to have anymore. Because this stats are really shocking, and I love that I started with that, because a lot of time people say, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, or of course, we are an inclusive business and we really want to do this and we want to be for everyone, but you're not. And I think understanding that and acknowledging that is really important, and then taking the steps for it would be the second thing. The second principle would be audit. Like, say if there's a bias in any of these training data or in any of these outputs that we get from these models, and how do we ensure that it's not passed on to the other ones? But also understanding of your customers, like some of the things that we spoke about today, like how people are using these AI tools is different, how their prompting is different, what they use it for is also different. Like, one of the example between how a millennial probably would use or a Gen Z probably would use is so different. Like, I use it more for, automation, or I use it more for productivity, versus Gen Z are also using it as a therapist. They're using these AI tools to find purpose. See, it's very different usage as well that you need to consider, and having understanding of your, different generations, different race, different ethnicities in the way they use it, or even between men and women, I think is really going to help you have the right set of training. And then, of course, this auditing is really important. And the third thing would be just the partnerships and pipelines. Like, there are a lot of organizations that help support women into the industry or help support um, young students from minority backgrounds or lower economic backgrounds into the industry. So kind of working with them to ensure that, you have a healthy pipeline of talent, but also consumer research, focus groups, like go back to the basics. It's not rocket science. You have all the tools right there, but kind of like enhancing on it would be really important.
I love that. I was laughing when you were talking about the different use, Peter using it in a different way, because my son's been studying for his exams recently. So he's a Gen Z, I guess, and he's been using AI as a learning companion. And rather than having a friend, like my friends used to come to my house and we'd kind of cram together. And he's been using AI to go through that process. And I'd never even thought about it. It's just so natural to him. And I found him really fascinating. And I did say to my wife, well, this is a great thing. And yeah, she wasn't a big fan, but I thought it was great. Okay, so I'm gonna ask one final thing, which is I want a jump off point for people that are I'm looking to start a new project, a new business. I look after innovation within my team. So I'm doing something new. This subject of as diversity, inclusion, the skewing, right? What's the most fundamental thing that I should do to make sure my AI model, my product, my business doesn't have this skew in from day zero? What should I be doing as a business leader?
That's a really good question. And I would say sit back, look at the room, look at the table, see who's not on the table, see who's missing, whose voice is not being heard, and start from there. It's as simple as that. Um, you know, uh, uh, like once you have the right people in the room, they will ask questions that would lead to the right product discovery. You will have right people in the room that will ensure that the product market fit exists. If you have the right people in the room, you know that the training is being done right. If you have right people in the room, you know that your auditing is being doing right. So I think it's just getting right people in the room, which is as simple as it can get. And we keep talking about this diversity and inclusion and equity and equality, and it kind of is now changing with a lot of tech companies kind of moving away from it and kind of renaming it under FAIR. But I think essentially what everyone's trying to do is the same thing, to ensure that there's fairness, ensuring that there's, different voices that have been included. And then again, I feel there's a role of regulation as well that needs to be playing a part in ensuring that, what this a section of humanity is building, how is it improving life of everyone and not just a certain section of people. But as a CEO, if you're building a product, ensure that it has relevance for everyone, and it takes into consideration of different opinions and viewpoints from the beginning. And most often than not, it starts with your team who's building it.
Yeah, I like the very first point made, which is, and it's kind of black box thinking. It's who's not in the room. Exactly. And I really love that. So I'm going to leave the audience with that point because I think that's a great way to end our conversation. Thank you for speaking to me. It's been fantastic. And quite soon.
Well, Sanjay, when you open up with those stats, as Asavari did, I mean, it's just, I mean, as a man sitting here, feeling relatively entitled, it's just shocking.
Yeah, it's scary, right? It's scary that it's happening again. That's the challenge. And it's diversity in all senses for me, right? You know, so whether it's male, female, ethnicity, you know, geography, language. Why are we doing this? Why is it happening again?
Yeah, there's so much bias, isn't there, going on and being embedded yet again. So listen, we've all got to be aware of it, and we've all got to do our best to try and change this cycle.
Agreed.
For reasons that came out in the chat, it's crucial that we all play our part. Sanjay, Mistry, you'll be very pleased, as I'm sure will our audience of however many it is, 3 or 4 plus, will be pleased there's no limerick this week. But here I'm going to do a little bit of cross promotion that even Rupert Murdoch would be proud of, Sanjay, because I have got a little side hustle. I've got a new board game that I've created and designed called Threology. The basis of Threology is that it essentially works around top 3 lists. Threology.fun, for those of you interested, will be live very, very soon. And what I thought might be quite fun was if I gave you a top 3 list.
Let's
So,
do it.
would you like it? I'm going to give you the top 3 tech gadgets you didn't know and perhaps didn't ever want to know exist.
Okay.
So,
Let's do it.
coming in at number 1, we have the Neo Kamimi Brainwave cat ears.
No.
No, these are wearable cat ears that move in response to your brain waves. Okay, these are going on your Christmas wish list.
I want to see you wearing them in the next episode.
Number 2 is a little easier to kind of imagine, but still quite freaky. A selfie toaster. This toaster burns a picture of your face onto every slice.
Oh no. There's no need for that in the morning, is there really?
And coming in at number 3, and I don't put these in any preferential order, that is the nature of the Threology game, by the way. Coming in at number 3, Happy Fork, the smart fork that judges your eating habits. It basically vibrates if you eat too quickly.
I don't need anyone else judging me the way I eat. I mean, it's I don't need my utensils to.
And I've sat opposite you. I know how you eat. That doesn't require any further analysis. All right. That happy note, we're going to go around the world in 80 seconds. And here we are with one of my favorite sections, if not my favorite section of the podcast, but don't tell Sanjay. It's our Around the Tech World in 80 seconds. Leto, Backstep and Ike, thank you for joining us from Athens and welcome.
Thank you for having me as well.
It's great to see you. We're recording this in early-ish September 2025. London has definitely turned autumnal, Leto, but is Athens still scorching hot?
Yeah, it's still summertime here, except that the day is getting a bit shorter, but yeah, summer is here.
Still searing hot. Well, as I think I might have mentioned on previous podcasts, having been in Madrid for 6 years, as you know, I think Madrid and Athens share the record for the most sunny, in capital cities this is, for the most sunny days of the year. So I always feel there's a bit of a bond. I always have a bond with Athens anyway, but particularly between Madrid and Athens.
Cool, yeah, it's quite sunny, yes.
It's a great place. So listen, before we set you up for your 80 seconds, and thank you for doing this, quick intro about you, the company you're working for in Athens. Just give us an intro.
Mhm. So I'm a senior engineering manager working at Bitmoving. Bitmoving actually is located in Austria and has a big presence also in the US. We're offering solutions for live and on-demand video workflows. We offer encoding services, playback solutions, but also a tool to analyze the user playback experience. I'm working remotely from my home office in Athens, but I travel a lot to Austria as well.
Cool. And yeah, well, Leto did give us the option of Vienna, but I love Vienna, but as a passion for Athens, we're going to go for the hometown. Right, Leto, are you ready for the 80 seconds?
Yeah, totally.
All right, here we go. What first word or vibe when you think of the Athens tech community?
I would say resilient. So the Athens tech community has this incredible ability to turn challenges into opportunities. I guess this stems from like the economic challenges that we have been facing for long.
Well, absolutely. There's a recent history of that. Well, so what kind of startups is Athens becoming known for? Is there a particular sector?
Yeah, I think there's amazing growth in shipping tech, which makes sense, like given Greece maritime heritage. Fintech is huge. Gaming is picking up as well. And there is a lot of exciting work in green tech, but also in tourism innovation.
Wonderful. Yeah, all key sectors. Does the history and the culture of Athens impact the innovation sector?
Yeah, I feel it absolutely. I think that the ancient Greek spirit of inquiry and debate is alive. I mean, you have to argue with a Greek person and you realize this, right?
I love that. I love that. We're running out of time. Any key players apart from bit moving?
Yeah, key players, I would mention like the startups Harbor Lab for revolutionizing shipping, Lambda Automata, which is AI first defense technology, and WeatherXM to build the world's first decentralized weather station network.
Awesome. Well, our wonderful editors are going to put that up. Now, we've got over the 80 seconds, Leto, but I've got to ask you, can you capture Athens? You've given us one word, but can you capture it in 5 words?
Ancient wisdom meets modern innovation.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you, Leto. You have been listening to another episode of Me, My CTO and I, with special thanks to Sanjay Mistry, Ray Bogman, Alex Gayan, Asavari Moon, Leto Baksivanaki, and our wonderful sponsors at Mixpanel. Thank you and adios.